Welcome to another fine edition of It's a Sports Show. I'm Scott Cray, alongside me as always, Dolphin Paul. What's going on, DP?
Not much, my man, not much.
Got our winter set going. We've gotten, as the time of this taping, we've gotten snow twice already. 65 degrees one day, and then snowing 24 hours later. Only in New England.
Very light snow, but we've had the warmest November on record, so, it's been pretty
From
good.
a lover of the peninsula of Florida, you must be thrilled.
I'm a lover of I like that. Lover of the peninsula.
You are
Peninsula
a
lover.
LP is your new name.
LP.
Lover of the peninsula.
Well, DP is going to be tough because my Dolphins, unfortunately, were on a good streak until this weekend where they spit the bit against Jacksonville. However, it's a good week for me because by the time our Rhode Island folk see this tape,
Yep.
I'll probably be somewhere in Fort Lauderdale
Yeah.
intoxicated because as we tape, it's Tuesday. Oh, there's no doubt about that.
Tell
and
us,
I leave
what's
Thursday
going on?
morning for Florida. We have
All right.
our annual trip with the Score Sports Radio,
Yep.
790. We leave Thursday to see the Pats versus Miami.
Nice.
Would have been a little more excited if Miami had won and brought it to 6-6.
Right.
But
And then
they
the
had
game could have meant a little more at
Well,
that point.
yeah, they had a hiccup at home. They had a chance to put Jacksonville away, but they're not getting very good quarterback play. There's still some other issues, but
And we'll talk about
Hey.
the Dolphins-Pats game in a second, but this Dolphins loss, we'll start right off with Miami while we're at it, kind of got people talking a little bit about Nick Saban and whether they put trust in him or not, but ownership saying, no, we're going to go forward with him.
Well, apparently the owner went into him because Nick Saban's been rumored for a lot of college jobs, specifically Alabama. And apparently the owner went in and said, "Hey, listen, what's going on?" And he said, "Listen, I'm not leaving. The job's not finished here. I've said all along I think he's going to be a good coach, but I told you early in the year that he wasn't. I didn't like the coaching job he was doing.
Right.
There's just a lot of in-game decisions. He's almost like growing as a coach. They put together 4 in a row, played well." But then, they can't sustain that. And, they started off in too big a hole. I mean, Joey
Right.
Harrington, unfortunately, is, he throws big interceptions at the wrong times.
Reminds me of my fantasy football. I got everybody back, but I got myself in such a hole. That's what happens when you have Sean Alexander and Donovan McNabb on the same team.
Well, I'm hot now. I won like 2 in a row, but my record's still
Wow.
4-9. I'm one of the worst teams in the league, so everything's a little too late for me. You know what
So
I mean?
you in fantasy equates well to Miami in the East.
This year it has.
Yep.
I'm defending fantasy football champ, but it's a big weekend for me because, as you know, we have a lot of fun down in Miami.
Absolutely.
Miami's not Foxborough. That's one good thing. I mean, there's palm trees, warm water. There's some establishments, bingo halls and stuff
And that's
like
a
that.
good thing for the Dolphins.
Golf.
The Dolphins coming to New England, not so good, but they usually play well when you go to this trip in Miami.
Yeah, Miami has actually had the upper hand, and, it's a division game. I mean, they always play the Patriots tough, just as the Patriots always played Miami tough when Miami was the better team in the division. Seems like so long ago.
It was a
And this
while
will be the
ago.
5th year in a row we don't make the playoffs.
It wasn't
I'm not
even
used to
in
that.
this generation anymore.
I'm not used to that. I'm very disappointed. But, it should be a good game against New England anyway. And
With 3 games left in the season, what good can
well, actually,
Miami...
there's 4, but
Is there 4? You're
6
right.
and 6
I
is
can't-
12.
Yeah.
16 minus 12 is 4.
Wait, no, 5 and 7. That's what... 5 and 7 equals 12. You're right
12.
about that. 4 games left in the season. What good can Miami still pull out of this? They're sitting at
Well,
the
they
bottom
just-
of the East right now.
Well, they need to win as many games as they can. Nick Saban already said he's not going to put in younger players. He wants to win every game.
Right.
I could give him credit for one thing. He's very focused on what he wants to do. He's just not getting it done.
Right.
But, yeah.
Is that just a matter of time at this point?
It'd be important to beat New England. It'd be important to beat the rest of the teams, I think. I'm not one of those guys that says, let's lose the game for draft picks. There's no guarantee in draft
No.
picks. We all know that.
And with a young team, especially who they have at the helm, and throwing Nick Saban in the mix, you don't want to make those sacrifices and say, let's throw away the rest of the season. I don't
absolutely
think
not.
any team really does that.
That would send the
anyway.
wrong message. And the Patriots have had higher draft picks, although they've had multiple draft picks because of all the coaching situation and losing key players. But they've done well drafting. A lot of teams have done well in the back of the draft.
Right.
Conversely,
That's a big word for you.
Conversely, the Detroit Lions, who just played New England, which I would assume we'll get to probably after this.
Right.
They've had many a draft pick.
Oh, yeah.
And haven't been able to turn that organization into a good team. They're just terrible.
Now, Saban's virgin year was last year, right?
That's correct.
So what did they end up finishing last year?
Well, they finished 9-7. They won their last 6, and they beat New England in that last game, which Patriot fans like to say. Patriots took out most of their starters, but the game was tied at first quarter, but they had a good run at the end of the year. They played well.
They had a great run.
So with all the expectations this year, as we talked about earlier, with Culpepper and all that, I mean, I thought they'd be much better. Again.
Well, people, I don't know if Miami fans. I mean, it seems around the nation, but it's hard to zero in on Miami fans whether they've forgiven the fact that Culpepper just was not ready to come back. And I don't know if that was a mistake by the Miami organization to sign this guy to a little too much money, considering he really wasn't able to come back this year. And it should have been a little more well known that he wasn't going to be able to come back this year. Is it going to be a failure between Culpepper not starting and the Dolphins overall just having a worse record than last year? At least it looks like that.
It could be. It's obviously a very disappointing season. And, again, I mean, it seems like I hope I'm not going to talk about this for the rest of my life. But,
right.
Drew Brees, the guy they could have had, is lighting it up in New Orleans. So,
yep.
But I'm not going to go back and say, oh, Nick Saban, you screwed up. Because at the time, everybody was worried about Brees' separated shoulder. And Chad Pennington had the same surgery, and he was not that good a year after. It took a while. Culpepper supposedly was rehabbing fine. He was doing everything they asked him to. So they made a decision at that point. Obviously, in hindsight, it didn't work out too good. If Culpepper can contribute in the future, which I think he can, because he's still relatively young, and his contract is not a mega deal.
Right.
They took it from Minnesota.
Because of that injury.
They didn't come up with a big $10 million signing bonus that took to sign Brees. Well, Culpepper could help him in the future. Joey Harrington, to me, is a very good backup.
Yeah.
Miami was up 7-3. They're at the 10-yard line. He throws an interception. I mean, they could have made it 14-3. Final score was 24-10. I think that would have changed the whole complexion of the game.
Yeah.
But, Nick Saban's going to take some heat because he hasn't been better than Wannstedt. He's been better everywhere he's gone, but up to this point, he hasn't made the right personnel changes. The team's not getting any younger, so
he's going to make some leaps in the next couple of years.
I'm a little disappointed, but we can always salvage things by beating the Patriots because now they're our arch rivals, and quite frankly, we're envious of the Patriots and the success they have.
Everybody in the NFL is.
Even when they play bad.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Patriots, because no one wants to hear about Miami anymore.
Okay, we're all
Enough's
done.
enough with that. That's the most Miami talk we'll do. There you go. Flip it over to the green side. The Patriots playing well should have really have had a gimme this past week, and it didn't turn out to be that way.
Actually, they're not playing too well. They've had a lot of turnovers the past couple of weeks. They've been able to...
Tom Brady specifically.
Tom Brady's that is such a big component of New England, to say the least.
Right.
I mean, when you have a QB who knows what he's doing, it's a lot easier to be a coach. And I don't want to take anything away from Belichick, but I've said this before. I mean, Tom Brady just knows what to do with the football. And with the receivers he has, which is less than most teams, he gets the job done. But, the Patriots were finding themselves on the rope. That was a classic, game of everybody talks about all week about how you should be prepared for the Lions. It's another game. We're professionals. We prepare, blah, 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 blah. I don't care what anybody says. I think it's human nature. Just play Chicago, a national game. You had Miami on the horizon, which, is a division rival. And you got Detroit in between, who's 2-9. I don't care what anybody says. I often myself try to put myself in the player's position psychologically.
Right.
And it's
not physically.
Physically be pretty tough. I'd be like that guy in a commercial with a big jock.
Too short to be a receiver, not big enough to be a lineman.
Right. But I try to think, it's just human nature. I mean, you're going up against a team who's 2-9. You're probably saying, well, if I don't...
You think they're looking forward to Miami a little bit?
Well, I just think, they're looking past that game subconsciously,
Right.
And then when you see yourself in a dogfight, then maybe it's like, hey, we need to do something.
Kick into gear.
I mean, Detroit could have won that game easily.
Definitely.
If they didn't give New England back the gifts that New England gave them, or vice versa.
Well, that's the thing. The Patriots could have won the game easily if they didn't give away the gifts, too.
Detroit came out as the Detroit we know and love, not being able to close the deal. I thought Detroit, with a few minutes to go, 5 or 6 minutes, went for a field goal.
Yep.
I thought they should have went for it there. You're 2-9. You're on the road.
You got nothing to lose
playing
at that point.
Playing a good team. If you'll get a score there. The Patriots need 2 scores, 2 touchdowns, to come back.
Right.
So, they went for the field goal, and again, you give the Patriots credit. They made the plays when they had to, but they're not playing. They're not playing as well as that they can, I think, specifically because of the turnovers. However, the Patriots were here, I thought, and San Diego, Denver, and Indianapolis were up a step.
Right.
But now I think Indianapolis, who we can talk about after, has come down a little
Absolutely.
bit. Denver certainly is not the same team that beat New England. I mean, if you're a Patriot fan, how would you feel about playing Denver now with Jay Cutler
Right.
versus the Denver who was so dominant early in the year? San Diego, they remain. That's an interesting team there. I'm so curious to see Marty Schottenheimer in the playoffs because I'll be the first one to jump on it.
Well, you've been talking about that, right?
Right, but I mean that's a good team there. So I don't think the Patriots have climbed. I think a couple teams have come down. So they're right back in the mix of the whole thing.
Well, you see, you got to think though. When I see your mentality where you're sort of talking about, believe it or not.
Doctors can't see my mentality. You're doing pretty good.
We got a jump start. You're kind of putting football teams into tiers where you have the upper echelon of teams and then just below.
Right.
And what you're saying is teams like Denver, which I agree with you, and Indy, have come down just a hair, and the Patriots, maybe they're kind of meshing together.
Yeah, I think the Patriots have kind of stayed in that same area.
Yeah, but you got to think about what the Patriots would do in a matchup against these teams. And somebody had said, and I always forget who says it during the week. You hear all of the sports radio and everybody. I always think it's Sean Salisbury for some reason. Maybe it's him that I'm always listening to. But somebody had said, there's not really anybody else in the league that the Patriots should really be super afraid of. I disagree. I still think that Indy just may have the Patriots' number. I agree with you in that Indy has come down a notch, but that's different than looking at a matchup against the Patriots and saying that maybe Indy would be an easier team for the Patriots to face at this point. I'm not so sure. Denver, always tough to play in Denver. And you talk about San Diego, the Patriots wouldn't have to worry about that for a little bit into the playoffs. But I still think there are teams that are better than the Patriots. I don't think that the Patriots are amongst the best in the NFL.
I probably agree with you, but you put the Patriots in a playoff game with Belichick and Brady, especially the second time around, Belichick, how he faces a team the second time around, which would apply in the Colts and Denver, depending on where it is.
Right.
I mean, if the Patriots have to...
Well, in both cases, they're going to be on the road, wouldn't you think? Well, at least for Indy.
Well, probably, but I'm just...
I guess it depends on how the records pan out.
I'm just talking about how it pans out. Right now, the Patriots are right in the mix. Let's say they're a number 3 seed, and they'd have to go to either Indy or San Diego.
Right.
I mean, would you be shocked if the Patriots won?
Right.
I
know what you're saying.
I think
because it's the playoffs.
The way they're playing right now, I don't think, they're not the same dominant Patriots of a few years ago.
But they can still pull games off.
But if you look at everybody else, you're like, is there any team here really that scares you? I mean, the Bengals were down.
Right.
They come back up a little bit. The Patriots beat them when they were flying high at 3-0.
I mean, Carson Palmer's just sick.
That was a long time ago. I mean, him and Chad Johnson, but their defense is very suspect.
Right.
The Ravens, with that offense, great defense, that offense is still... they had a little hiccup against Baltimore.
Yeah, but if the Ravens can get into the playoffs, that defense is going to help them so much. It's going to be like the Giants of old when back in the 80s you had defenses, the Steelers, the Giants, the Cowboys. These are teams that got through with their defense, won enough games to get into the playoffs, and then, man, once your defense takes over in the playoffs, it's a whole nother ballgame.
There's no doubt about it, and I'm just saying that the Patriots are in the mix, and believe me, being a Dolphin fan, I don't want the Patriots to play the Super Bowl on Dolphin soil. That would suck, to be honest with you.
Right.
I know Patriot fans are watching saying,
no, it's true.
Up yours for a better thing. And I understand. I'm just saying, I think they're in the mix. I mean, I know people want to say they're lucky, and I'm the first one to say they're lucky, joking around, but they're in the mix. Right. That's all it is. And you know what? Look at the NFC. I mean, if the Dolphins were in the NFC, we'd be right in the thick of things.
Right.
NFC stinks.
Yeah,
I mean, the Cowboys right now are very hot because Romo is... he could be, I don't want to say another Tom Brady, but he's a guy who like a diamond in the rough, who was doing nothing and now is playing tremendous. But other than that, in the NFC, I mean, you got the Bears, great defense. If you go to Chicago, you're going to pay the price.
Right.
But that offense,
Rex Grossman's all over the place.
1.3 quarterback rating.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, you'd have to run backwards.
They ended up with negative passing yards for the game. And won the game. That's the amazing thing. It's because their defense kept them in it,
defense,
too.
They got excellent special teams with Devin Hester.
Yep. Was that the return for the field goal?
No, that was a return for, I think it was an interception. No, that was a punt return.
Oh, that's what it was.
A touchdown. And they're tough there. But, NFC, I mean, basically, now, would the Cowboys and Patriots be an intriguing matchup? Absolutely.
Sure.
But because it's in Miami, I'm sorry, I just don't want to see it. But, it all depends what happens here down the road between the Colts and Denver, San Diego, you got Baltimore, but the Patriots have found themselves right in the mix. And now
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say now to go to Miami, which is not a cakewalk either, but right now,
Well, they just barely won their cakewalk, so
Right.
That was the cakewalk of the year. The way the Patriots and Colts played against each other in their last game just still leads me to believe that with the way that both defenses played, neither team really belongs in the Super Bowl. Anything could happen in football. I understand that, and I also understand the fact that a lot of games and weeks have passed since that they played each other. But I didn't see any improvement either way. There's no way that Detroit should have put up those points. And like you said, if they didn't give away gifts that they got in return, it could have been a lot worse, making the defense look even that much more worse. So it just seems to be like you're looking at a team like San Diego. I know what you're saying about Chicago's offense, but again, I'm big on defenses. And hey, look at Chicago's record. They have the best record in the NFL. As of this week, they're the only team that has already clinched. How can you put them aside? You never know what that team can do in the playoffs.
Let's not forget there's still 4 weeks to go, which is a whole quarter.
That's a quarter of a season. It's a lot of time.
You're
right.
Like they say, it's not who's playing well at the beginning, it's who's playing well at the end. So.
And a team like Cincinnati could pop up out of nowhere and end up winning their division.
They have a terrific offense.
They sure do.
The wild cards will be interesting. Like I said, in NFC, the Giants are reeling. Carolina, which was my Super Bowl pick, and they don't have a lot of injuries.
Did I see a stat that they have now lost 5 games this year after leading in the fourth quarter?
Yes, they struggled with that
if you
last
can't
night.
finish like that, you don't belong in the playoffs. You don't belong in the playoffs at all.
And they lost last night against Philadelphia without Donovan McNabb, and in the game they went back and forth, and Philadelphia won right at the end.
Right.
We're taping on Tuesday.
Well, look at Philly. They don't have Donovan McNabb.
I like Andy Reid as a coach, too.
I know that football teams, probably more so than baseball, are reliant upon the entire team, but there are certain teams that have certain star, top-notch players. It would be like the Colts without Manning, and it always seems to go around the quarterback, except for maybe Baltimore with their defense. But the Colts around Manning, the Pats without Brady, and I put Eagles without McNabb in that category. You don't have that guy, that's it. Your season's over as far as I'm concerned. The Eagles are out of it. They can't do anything without McNabb. I know they just won that game. But
they won yesterday, and according to the schedule that we're looking at, they're 6-6, which puts them. Minnesota in the NFC North is 5-7. I'm talking about second place teams now.
Right.
Carolina 6-6. San Fran 5-7. So they're right there in a wild card race.
Right.
No matter what you say.
Well, they're only 5-3 in their conference. Well, what that matters or not.
In the NFC, they're alive. Miami would be alive in NFC. So,
like you said earlier, exactly with Miami.
The teams that they good. Carolina surprises me because they don't have a lot of injuries, and I don't know what's going on with them. They're giving up those big leads, so defensively they're not all there. And I thought.
And that's what Carolina's known for is their defense, and they're playing decent defense. Just at the end they can't close it.
Can I go off on a small tangent?
Let's hear it.
Did you see the
Look at the camera, straight at the camera.
Did you see the Monday night game yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
Well, for those folks that saw the Monday night game yesterday, I think this new broadcast team of Kornheiser.
Wait, why do you say Kornheiser first?
And Mike Tirico.
And then Heisman second.
I like Mike Tirico, okay? Yeah. Tony Kornheiser, I've said it before, they've taken him for a guy with a sense of humor, and they said, I'm assuming this is just me surmising, there's no inside
Coming
information.
from a guy with a sense of humor.
Coming from a guy with a big sense of humor, said, okay, we'll put you on Monday Night Football, but we don't want you to be like Dennis Miller. So they took him from the right and put him all the way over on the left.
Right.
I don't know how many people noticed this watching the game, but all you heard yesterday was Kornheiser speaking to Joe Theismann.
Right.
Well, Joe, how do you think the players feel on a short week? You think they're tired? Well, yeah, Tony. Well, Joe, you think that was interference? Wouldn't you say so, Joe? Yeah, I think so, Tony.
Right.
Well, Joe, how about that play there? Wouldn't he have handed it off a little better?
And when you don't hear
Tony.
that,
I'm listening and going, why do we have this guy on? If I could sit in the booth and ask the same question.
Because it's far too embarrassing to take him off at this point.
At least Paul McGuire would go at it with Joe back and forth.
Right.
And I knew Paul McGuire played the game. But, I think they've taken Kornheiser and just put him there.
It's pretty sad when Sylvester Stallone does a better job up in the booth than Kornheiser does.
Well, don't you? I don't know if people agree.
Dude, everybody.
I'd be curious for people to send us emails and comment on that because I was listening to the game going.
Viewers and listeners alike are talking about it. I hear it during the week and on Tuesday morning
I don't think he's as bad. I think he's under tight reins. I think they should let him loose a little bit. And it's like, Shouldn't that be pass interference, Joe? Wouldn't you call a timeout there, Joe?
Dude,
I mean, have an opinion. You're in the booth.
Right. It would be a mistake.
I know you didn't play, and you can't say when I was in the huddle, but
It's going to be chalked up as a mistake, again, by this time a different management, though, for the Monday Night Football, because it's not NBC or whoever it is, it's ESPN now. It's another mistake done by managerial decisions, but they can't renege halfway through the season. 3 games into the year, we already knew that this was a problem.
No, but I think it's becoming worse. I
It
see it
probably
becoming
is,
worse.
but they can't get
Mike
rid of him
Patrick,
now.
Paul McGuire, and Joe Theismann were an excellent trio, I thought. I don't understand why they couldn't take those guys from Sunday night and put them on Monday night. I think, to me, Kornheiser, he's got a great show in PTI.
That's where he belongs.
I think he's much more animated.
Yep.
Unless they can't filter in that personality into Monday Night Football, it's terrible.
It's different
What do you
when you're
think,
calling a
Joe?
game.
Should he pass the ball, Joe? Should he hand it off, Joe?
Well,
How about when you played, Joe? I'm like,
I'm sure that's what's developed from the heat he's gotten about being in the booth.
frustrating.
So maybe they're telling him now to just be nobody. Just don't offer anything. Just be there as a body.
No,
Let's get through the season.
Well,
they want to cut ties
when
with
you're
him. I'm
watching
sure
a
of
game
it.
like last night's game between two teams who are struggling, and you
It
look
was still a great game.
It was a pretty good game, but you're looking for something a little more. For instance, people out there, I'm sure will agree. You listen to Phil Simms.
Yeah.
Terrific. Troy Aikman will give you nice points about the game.
Well, that's what Theismann's there for.
We'll tell you what's going on, but you got this clown asking him, should the guy tie your shoe, Joe? Should he go get water now, Joe? I mean, I don't think that's the place for it in the broadcast. I'm
Why
not
even
saying
bother?
that Kornheiser is gonna break down an NFL game film
But at
and
least
say,
offer
oh, that
something.
looked like a good crossfire trap or something because he didn't play the game. But boy, have some type of opinion.
You're against guys with beards, aren't you?
I'm against girls with beards, I'll tell you that.
Hey, man, they all
All right,
have a
that's just
place.
my rant.
Oh, you feel all right now?
I feel all right.
You feel better?
Ready to go.
Shed a few pounds?
Fort Lauderdale,
Rock and
here
roll?
I come. Ready to
All
go.
right. Excellent.
I'm sorry.
I don't even know what to say to follow that up.
Well, it's just an observation about Monday Night Football. We've had a lot of changes, and I just think the broadcast, Monday Night Football is an institution in America.
You got that right.
I'm all choked up.
You're all bothered by it. Drink
I'm
from some of your Dolphin seawater.
Okay, hold on.
We talked about some of the teams in the division. Let's talk about quarterbacks. It was interesting because ESPN.com ranks their quarterbacks throughout the entire league. I just pulled up the top 5. Naturally, Peyton Manning's at the top, but Carson Palmer is sneaking up, and Tom Brady's in the mix as well. Just to finish things off, Drew Brees in 4th and Tony Romo in the 5th spot. I guess Manning-Palmer. Is Manning at the top because of the team and the offensive numbers he's putting up? Because I think of top 5 quarterback rankings, and I'm not so sure that who you are surrounded by should not be put into this mix. In other words, I'm thinking Carson Palmer is actually a better quarterback when I watch him on TV than Peyton Manning is. But Peyton Manning has a couple extra weapons. I know he's got Harrison and Palmer's got Johnson. Obviously, you disagree.
I vehemently disagree, only because Carson Palmer's got Chad Johnson.
Yep.
Okay, let's compare Chad Johnson and T.J. Houshmandzadeh to Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne.
Yep.
Comparable.
Okay.
But, I mean, they got Chris Henry,
Yep.
who's pretty good.
Well,
Got Rudy Johnson, who they can throw to.
right.
I think it's comparable. I mean, I think you're splitting hairs. I think Manning's done it for a longer time, and everybody says that there's no better student of the game than Peyton Manning.
Right.
I mean, Peyton Manning knows what to do with the football. So Carson Palmer is back on track. He's having a terrific year, but I don't think you can denigrate his weapons at all. Chad Johnson could be one of the top receivers in the league, right near Steve Smith, right near Marvin Harrison.
Right.
But Peyton Manning,
But if you look at their stats, he's not. Johnson is not putting up the same numbers, I don't believe, that Harrison is. Upper echelon, absolutely.
he had 3 touchdowns last week.
Well, yeah, throw that into the mix. But, I mean, it just seems like when I watch Carson Palmer playing football, maybe it's just something
Does this have anything to do with you having like a Cincinnati mug in front of you?
No.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Wait. I don't know what you're talking about. I have a black mug in front of me. But, I don't know. What do you think about Tom Brady? According to this ESPN.com poll, Carson Palmer actually leapfrogged Tom Brady from last week. So you look at the performances of this past week, and that has an account. does Tom Brady belong in that middle of the mix? I'm not saying he doesn't belong at the top. I'm saying that does he belong actually even higher than either Palmer?
Well, the problem
or
is with
dare I
Tom
say
Brady
Manning?
is he's got the hardware. You know, he's done it. He's been there. He's got 3 Super Bowls. He's been MVP.
But that's all in the past. This is rankings
well,
based
but
on
still,
this year.
But you know, well, I mean, totally this year. I don't know. I didn't break down the rankings, maybe like you did. I mean,
Right.
Are you asking me who's the best? Who has the better rankings? I mean, the thing is,
Who's the better quarterback?
I think the best pure quarterback in the NFL would be Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
To me,
Really?
reading defenses,
Even over Brady?
best pure quarterback.
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
pure quarterback, which means all the skills.
Right.
Brady has a ton of intangibles.
Right.
In other words, he can do it when it counts.
Right.
And he has something that Dan Marino had, and I noticed this very early in his career. He can move around in the pocket, not scramble. If you notice, especially
can
the game
step
this
up.
week, he slides.
Yep.
He shifts.
Yep.
Marino was a master at that. Even though he was slow-footed, he'd find just a little edge to get himself to throw the ball.
Just to get out of the way.
You know, that's being a total quarterback. So, you know, it's a hard question. It's a good question. But, I mean, pure passer. It's like his commercial, 6'5" quarterback with laser rocket arm. He can do it all. I mean, he might do all those changes at the line. He hits every receiver. Every pass is perfect.
Yep.
So I think he's certainly up there. Carson Palmer hasn't done it for a long enough time. Certainly a tremendous quarterback. And Brady, just on his history alone, even what he did last week, it was only against the Lions. He gets things done. Breeze is on a Breeze.
Drew Brees, huh?
Drew Brees is on a New Orleans Saints team, but he's proven he's a top quarterback.
How about the Saints, man? We talked about
Drew Brees.
he could have been playing for
Joey
Green.
Harrington. That's not right.
I mean, Drew Brees and the
And
New
Tony
Orleans.
Romo in that list.
Yeah.
I mean,
Quickly.
4 weeks ago, Cowboy fans, you put Tony Romo, even with 5 more quarterbacks in that list, they'd be shocked.
Terrell Owens loves him.
So who knows? Oh, well, listen, sometimes you just don't know. I'm amazed at these guys, not to go on a tangent, because I've been...
Another tangent.
Well,
I'll let you go on this.
I mean, you get these QBs out of nowhere sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not the number 1 draft pick. They're not the number 5 draft pick.
No.
They're not the number 26 draft pick. You've got Tony Romo and Tom Brady both just waiting in the wings. And, of course, Tom Brady has a much better resume at this point. But Tony Romo hasn't done anything wrong.
Right.
Matter of fact, he looks pretty good if you're a Cowboy fan.
On the flip side, you get teams like the Texans. Who'd they get?
David Carr.
David Carr.
Who's still, hasn't
He hasn't panned out. You're looking at a number 1 pick.
Vince Young, let's give Tennessee some credit for beating the Colts.
Yeah.
And if you're a Dallas fan, right now, they could very well be the best team in the NFC. I know the Bears are there, but boy, when you got Romo and Terry Glenn is playing well, and you got Terrell Owens when he plays, and they got a decent defense, good coach.
Yep.
And Bledsoe's on the sideline. He's gonna be for the remainder of the year. I mean, that's without question, and probably for the rest of his career if he stays in Dallas.
Sure.
So that's a tough question, but I think you're splitting hairs. You're asking a guy who's
That's what I do.
well.
I split hairs.
You split hairs. Well, that's more than I need to know. But
We only got a couple more minutes. Let's wrap things up with some great news. John Lester, who has been undergoing treatment for cancer, has 1 more treatment left. They say that the cancer is in remission, and he should be ready to go in spring training. So great news personally for John Lester, and great news for the Red Sox.
well, certainly for the Red Sox, but more so for John Lester personally. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I've had a rough year myself with different things happen to different people, and that stuff is always separated. And he's a young
Sports
man.
mean
He's a
nothing
young
when
man.
they- yeah.
I certainly hope he comes back at minimum for himself.
Yeah, well, he's got 1 more treatment left. They're saying he'll be ready to go
Beautiful.
in spring training, and
Beautiful.
I'm sure he's looking forward to it, and we are all too. I can't wait to see that
Still got
ovation
a
when he comes to the mound.
Daisei Mutsaka update.
Yeah, that's
got a
still being
JD Drew
negotiated. JD Drew still being
Still
negotiated.
got Manny stories.
Manny is now, as much as Daisu Matsusaka is the head story, slowly coming down a notch because it seems as though Manny's
Theo
becoming the
Epstein
big thing.
Today, Tuesday, which, again, once the folks see the show, they'll know that Theo Epstein said another day and a half or so, 48 hours or 24 hours, deadline to trade Manny.
Yep.
He's going to leave the door open, but for fast negotiations at the winter meetings.
Yeah.
That's
Goofy
it.
situation because you pick up JD Drew, it's even more reason to leave Manny, but everybody
We'll talk about JD
had
Drew. A
enough
lot
of
of
him.
money.
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, we'll see you
Spend
next
it.
week after a great trip down to Fort Lauderdale. I'd
safe
say good luck
travels.
to the Patriots, but I'll be rooting against them.
You need to bring something back, some Miami sand or something to pour on the set. Something for next set.
You know,
that's
that's
your
a
job.
good point. That could end the Drew Brees curse.
Maybe, how about like just a vial, which is kind of a scary thing in itself.
What, do you want me to get arrested?
Bring back
I'm
a
vile
vial.
myself.
A vial of Miami seawater. That's what we want. All right?
Okay.
Done deal. Mixing in with some scotch. And
I
we'll be good
can't
to
carry
go.
it on the plane.